What's up, a Cinema Shogun here with my lovely assistant Piglet. And in my next video, I want to break down all of the documents attached to this lawsuit that the Petitos filed against the Laundrie family. But right now, I am stuck on this one key detail. There is one key detail that we got from all of this that I cannot get away from. I keep thinking about it. And it's the fact that Brian Laundrie let his parents know that he killed Gabby before he even returned home. I don't know why, but for the most part, I have operated under the assumption that Brian Laundrie waited until he got home to drop this bombshell on his parents. I just figured it was something that he wouldn't want to say over the telephone. We know that at the very least, he was smart enough not to talk too much over the phone. And he was even using Gabby Petito's phone to text back and forth and even text her mother and stuff like that. So he was at the very least smart enough not to text his parents, I would assume, that he killed Gabby. Or else they would have had proof about that long ago. But, I mean, there's no other way around it. Obviously, some type of phone call was made because the time of death for Gabby Petito was on August 27th. And in this new lawsuit, it specifies that Brian Laundrie told his parents roughly around sometime on the 28th. And you have to remember that Brian Laundrie didn't get home back into Florida in Gabby Petito's van until September 1st. So his parents already knew while he was making this road trip home in Gabby Petito's van at that their son was a murderer. There's been a lot of talk this whole time about should Brian Laundrie's parents get charged? Should they face criminal charges? And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not law enforcement. I don't know the specifics of how the law works. But I think if anything was incriminating against the Laundries, it would be the fact that they knew their son was a murderer and encouraged him to come home. And even if they couldn't, find charges that would stick against the Laundries, I think at the very least, at the bare minimum, the Laundries should be responsible for paying the city back all this money that was wasted while they searched for their son. All of these hours wasted, all of this manpower wasted, all of these resources wasted that went to searching for their son. And if they had this knowledge since the 28th, before he even came home, then I feel like they are directly just as responsible for this whole search for Brian Laundrie as Brian Laundrie himself. Brian Laundrie wasn't planning on taking himself out. Brian Laundrie hit his family up after he killed Gabby Petito, maybe about a day later, and thought that mommy and daddy were going to be able to save him. He thought that mommy and daddy were going to come to his rescue. He called up his parents. His parents let him know to get home fast. They went ahead and got him an attorney. They went ahead and made sure that there was no, direct talks with the Petito family. And then they started trying to devise a plan to leave out of the country. Now, there's a lot of details from these documents that I'm going to get to. But I just have to make a whole separate video about this. You guys know how I am. I try to break things down in like bite-sized portions because I know not everybody has 6, 7, 8 hours to sit down and watch a live stream. So I try to, give y'all bite sizes of information. So I'm going to break this whole report down. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just hyper focused on this right now because I thought that Brian Laundrie probably told his parents maybe on the camping trip or before the camping trip, and the camping trip was just part of their plan to try to get Brian Laundrie out of the country. But I never imagined that Brian Laundrie let his parents know before he even headed home. And I think that looks even worse on the Laundries. After this story kind of slowed down a little bit and a lot of the talks around this story kind of died down, I started questioning myself just a tad bit. Like, was I a little bit too intrusive on these people's lives? Maybe, they lost their son as well. And at the end of the day, they didn't make this decision for their son. So maybe, just maybe they didn't even know. Maybe they didn't know. Maybe they were in the dark about a lot of things, And I questioned myself. And I even felt, for a slight moment, I felt kind of bad at one point. Like, man, Brian Laundrie's gone. And maybe his family just didn't know all the details that we thought they knew. Maybe we were just thinking about it too hard. But now, now that this report comes out, I definitely don't feel bad at all because it turns out they knew all along. They knew. They knew before their son even got his dusty penguin walking ass in Gabby Petito's van and drove all the way down to Florida. They knew, didn't they, Pig? Didn't they? And that's why he's a bad person, and Piglet's a good girl. Because Piglet would never make those type of decisions, would you? Never, okay? Piglet would never make a Laundrie-like decision, but it just blows my mind that we're this far out from this case, and right when we think that everything was done for, now this, big news breaks. And now just when we thought the story was over, a new chapter in this story begins. And I think through this case, we're going to find out a lot of the details that we've been wanting to know. We've been wanting to find out a lot of the details from this investigation that the FBI did not release. Even in the final report, you could go back on my channel, we extensively went through the final FBI report from this case. And nowhere did it say half the information that we're getting out of the Petitos now that they filed this lawsuit. There's so much juicy information in here. And I think the fact that the parents knew well before he even made it back to Florida is one of the biggest key details, because that shows you that the wheels were already turning, the plans were already going in motion, and I feel like that just makes the Laundries look so bad. They were harboring a criminal. They knew their son was a murderer. They talked him into coming home so they could protect him, so they could hide him, so they could get him legal defense and possibly try to get him out of the country. Because that's another allegation from this lawsuit, was that the Laundries were planning on getting Brian Laundrie out of the country. Now, I want you all to understand that even though we've gotten a little bit of information today, this is not it. The Petitos wouldn't be filing this lawsuit if they didn't have information to back up all of these claims. So for those of you who may have gone over the full report already, and like I said, I'll read through that in my next video, then there's a lot of little tidbits of information you get there. But I'm telling you right now, that's just the surface of what the Petitos must know. I would guarantee you all that they got facts and evidence to back all of these different allegations. The allegations about them trying to help him get out of the country and all these other various allegations they made against the Laundries, I will guarantee you all that they got evidence to back it up. And now that this case is closed, they'll be able to access all of these documents from the FBI investigation. And we're going to see one hell of a situation here unfolding, because they're trying to take this to to a jury. So we're going to have to see, I would assume, we're going to have to see the Laundries actually enter into court with this one. Now, we've already heard from Bertolino. He's basically denying that the Laundries knew any of this stuff, but he's not saying much. He's not saying much. I'll go over his exact comments in my next video, but typical Bertolino stuff. If you've been following this case, you know how Bertolino is. He half-ass says everything, and then he kind of sends you through a whirlwind. Basically, his comments were that if this stuff is true, he literally said in his comment, if this stuff is true, and then backs it up by saying none of this stuff is true. So it's just like, what are you even talking about, dude? But I want to know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. What do you think about this? Does this incriminate the Laundries even further in your eyes? Like, if anything, I believe they definitely deserve a charge now after we get this, because I just think if Brian Laundrie made it all the way home and he's sitting down for a nice spaghetti dinner with his family and he's like, hey, mom and dad, the reason Gabby's not here is because I killed her. I feel like that's a very different situation than him phoning his parents and letting him know that he killed her and then them helping him from there. It's not like a spur of the moment type of thing where they were put between a rock and a hard place. It's like it was premeditated. Let's put it like that. It was thought through. When he called you on the 28th and told you he killed Gabby, it was days before he made it home. And y'all operated knowing that Gabby was dead. Didn't tell anybody Gabby was dead. Welcomed your son home with open arms and tried to protect him, knowing that you were just, you were literally taking in a murderer. You were taking in a murderer. And it wasn't something that got dropped on you spur of the moment and you didn't know what to do. You had days to think about it before he even made it home. And you still made the decision to not tell the parents of Gabby Petito, to not, cooperate with law enforcement, to still try to hide your son and try to get, your son out of this situation that you obviously could not get him out of. But I want to know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up button. Say hey to Piglet. She's obviously tired of talking about this whole situation. You thought it was over with, didn't you? That's what you get for thinking, Pig. But yeah, let me know your thoughts about all of this down in the comments below. Thumbs up button, subscribe button, notification bell, ring it. Go ahead and ring it. And as always, find some time out of your day to go watch a movie.